A groundbreaking and highly controversial hydropower project in China has officially begun. On July 19th, the country launched its Yarlung Tsangpo River downstream hydropower project, which is 3 times the size of the Three Gorges Dam, the world's largest hydropower project. The total investment for the project is 1.2 trillion RMB, or about 170 billion US dollars, 6 times the cost of the Three Gorges Dam. Multiple reports have indicated that the Yarlung Tsangpo downstream hydropower project is located in Tibet's Linzhi area, with a planned capacity of 60 to 81 million kilowatts and an annual power output of up to 300 billion kilowatt hours. The project is set to be built along a 300-kilometer stretch of the Yarlung Tsangpo River, which has a dramatic height difference of about 2,200 meters. This stretch of the river is one of the most water-rich areas in the world, includes a unique approach, cutting corners and diverting water through tunnels. The plan involves digging multiple water diversion tunnels through the Namcha Barwell mountain range to bypass a sharp bend in the Yarlung Tsangpo. Water will be diverted from the upstream Mili Township in Linzhi City, specifically from the Paicun section, to the downstream Beibeng village in Midou County, returning to the main river. This will take advantage of the significant topographical drop for power generation. The entire project will involve building 5 hydropower stations inside the mountains, along with at least 5 underground water plants and tunnels, with individual tunnels stretching around 50 kilometers and a total tunnel length of over 200 kilometers. The project also plans to build 2 major dams. The main dam, located near Mili Township, will stand 162 meters tall, with a reservoir capacity of 16 billion cubic meters. It will primarily serve to regulate water flow, ensuring continued power generation during dry periods. The downstream diversion dam, located in Paicun, will be around 20 to 30 meters high and will play a key role in diverting water into the tunnels. The Yarlung Tsangpo River has an average annual flow of 65 billion cubic meters, with a flow rate of 5 to 8 meters per second. While the river has water year-round, its flow fluctuates significantly, with the rainy season from June to September accounting for 70 to 80% of the annual flow, and the dry season from December to April seeing very little water flow. This is why the project plans to build large dams upstream of the water diversion tunnels to store water. The project site lies in the Yarlung Tsangpo Grand Canyon, a steep V-shaped valley with depths exceeding 5,300 meters. Despite the massive scale of this project, the launch ceremony was unexpectedly understated. Chinese Premier Li Qiang attended to announce the project's official start, but there were no speeches, and other high-ranking officials were notably absent. This low-key atmosphere contrasts sharply with the grand ceremony held when the Three Gorges Dam project was launched in 1994, when then-Premier Li Peng gave a speech and celebrated the project's significance. Furthermore, state-run media coverage of the project has been vague, with some reports even contradicting each other. This has raised concerns, with experts noting that the Chinese government seems uneasy about the project. Several experts have warned that this massive hydropower project not only poses significant construction risks, but could also bring safety concerns to millions of people in neighboring countries downstream. The project has also sparked international criticism due to its potential to cause severe environmental damage. What's raising eyebrows is that while construction has already started, as of July 26, no feasibility or environmental impact reports for the project have been made publicly available. Water expert Wang Weiluo told Radio France Internationale that while the project is moving forward, it lacks a thorough feasibility study, which violates standard procedures for large infrastructure projects. Also, the environmental impact assessment has not been released, violating legal requirements for such large projects in China. Another puzzling issue is the enormous 1.2 trillion RMB investment in a national-level project. The government has not disclosed a clear funding plan, nor followed the precedent set by the Three Gorges project, which required approval from the National People's Congress. Instead, the Chinese government simply approved the project on its own. Based on available information, it's clear that the Yarlung Tsangpo hydropower project will face significant challenges and risks. The project site is located in the Yarlung Tsangpo Grand Canyon, within the complex geological zone known as the Indo-Yarlung Tsangpo Suture Zone. This region is part of the active tectonic belt along the southern ridge of the Tibetan Plateau, with an average crustal movement rate of 30 millimeters per year. The suture zone stretches over 2,000 kilometers and was formed by the collision of the Indian and Eurasian plates. The area is high altitude, with elevations often exceeding 3,000 meters, and the land features deep valleys and steep slopes, fragmented rocks, and poor slope stability. The construction challenges here are immense. The project site is located in a seismic zone where the highest earthquake intensity could reach level 9 on the Richter scale. Over 60 earthquakes of magnitude 4 or higher occur annually, and about 10 of them exceed magnitude 5. Additionally, earthquakes in this region can trigger landslides, collapses, and mudslides, posing further geological risks. A 2023 report on geological disaster risks in Tibet found that about 65% of the towns along the suture zone face high to extremely high risk. From 2010 to 2020, over 1,700 landslides were recorded in the Shannan and Linzhi regions, with major landslides accounting for about 12% of the total. Historical examples of seismic activity include the 2021 Medok earthquake, which triggered over 20 landslides and rockfalls, blocking 4 tributaries and forming 3 landslide dams. In 2020, the Pomi earthquake damaged the Sichuan-Tibet highway. The 2018 Zayu landslide, with a volume of over 30 million cubic meters, blocked the Yarlung Tsangpo River. In 2021, the collapse of glaciers upstream of the Great Bend released 100 million cubic meters of ice and rocks, temporarily blocking the river and causing the water level to surge by more than 10 meters. The planned water diversion tunnels will need to pass through 17 fault zones, with some sections buried up to 3,000 meters deep. Construction will face extreme challenges, combining high tectonic stress, fault zones, harsh topography, and unpredictable climate conditions, making the risks for both construction and long-term operation exceptionally high. A geological expert from Sichuan province, Fan Xiao, pointed out, the geological instability and the likelihood of geological disasters in the Yarlung Tsangpo Grand Canyon are higher than in other western rivers of China. He emphasized that widespread blasting and tunnel construction in the seismically active area could trigger more landslides and mudslides, that disruptions during construction could lead to secondary geological disasters. He explained that the Himalayas are a young mountain range, with the local rock layers still rising. This rise occurs at varying rates across the region. Some areas are rising more rapidly, while others are sinking. Given the tectonic activity in this area, building large dams and long water diversion tunnels may not be a wise decision. The project faces several significant risks. It is located in a tectonic collision zone, where long-term pressure has created high tectonic stress in the rock. This increases the risks of rock bursts, tunnel collapses, and deformations during excavation. The area is also filled with active fault lines, fragmented rock, and abundant groundwater, making accidents like mudslides, water surges, and collapses more likely. Some of the tunnels will be dug between 1,500 to 3,000 meters deep, where temperatures could reach 40 to 50 degrees centigrade. With poor ventilation, this creates harsh conditions for workers and presents challenges for equipment maintenance. Additionally, the construction site is located at high altitudes, between 3,000 and 4,500 meters, where oxygen levels are just 69% of what they are at sea level. This leads to a 15 to 20% decrease in machinery performance and increases the risk of worker fatigue and altitude sickness. The area also contains water-bearing layers, particularly endophyolite and fault gouge, which pose risks of sudden water and mud surges. For instance, while constructing the water diversion channel for the Angchu Hydropower station in Tibet's Hangduan Mountains, a sudden water surge occurred when tunneling through a fault zone. The surge reached 2,000 cubic meters per hour, flooding the tunnel and damaging much of the equipment. The Chinese government has stated that China Yarlung Group has been formed to address these challenges. However, the effectiveness of these measures remains uncertain. In previous projects like the Three Gorges and Baihetan dams, the government underestimated construction difficulties, leading to safety issues, delays, and cost overruns. There are concerns that the Yarlung Tsangpo project could face similar problems. When the Chinese government first proposed the project, it faced widespread criticism. Dr. Ruth Gamble, an expert from La Trobe University in Australia, called the plan absurd and completely crazy. Himanshu Thakkar, a water expert from the South Asian Network on Dams, Rivers, and People, referred to it as the riskiest project in the world. He pointed out that, technically, it is the most difficult and expensive project ever to be built, unlike anything seen on any river in the world. The hydropower project will also have a significant environmental impact. The Yarlung Tsangpo River basin is known for its biodiversity and is often described as a natural vegetation museum, home to over 3,000 plant species and more than 40 species of nationally protected animals, including Bengal tigers and Medok ferrets. The construction will flood large areas of land, destroy vegetation, wildlife habitats, and disrupt the natural environment that Tibetans rely on for their culture. The dam's water storage could disrupt the river's flow, degrade water quality, and threaten aquatic life and wetland ecosystems. Additionally, the construction could trigger more landslides and rockfalls, altering the riverbed and surrounding landscape. Hydrologist Wang Weiluo pointed out that the damage to the Yarlung Tsangpo Grand Canyon's ecosystem could be irreversible. According to vlogger Rongshi Jintan, while the project plans to simulate natural flooding to maintain the health of the river, the sediment release will only be 60% of what would naturally occur, which could negatively affect soil fertility downstream. Drawing from the experience of the Three Gorges Dam, the reduction in sediment could deepen the riverbed and cause frequent bank collapses, potentially affecting the Ganges Delta and causing saltwater intrusion. The Chinese government has stated that environmental protection measures will be implemented, but its track record on environmental issues in projects like the Three Gorges and Mekong dams raises concerns. What is often promoted as a green project tends to be little more than just a slogan. In addition, the Yarlung Tsangpo Hydropower project appears to be economically less feasible than the Three Gorges project and carries a high risk of being left unfinished. The Chinese government claims that the Yarlung Tsangpo hydropower station will generate 330 billion kilowatt-hours annually, bringing an annual revenue of 66 to 80 billion RMB, with the investment to be recouped in 17 years. However, this optimistic forecast overlooks the high risks and operating costs of the project. Even based on the government's own data, the Three Gorges project will cost 180 billion RMB, generating an average of 93 billion kilowatt-hours annually. The Yarlung Tsangpo hydropower station is expected to generate 3 times the amount of power, but its cost is 6.7 times higher. Additionally, the Three Gorges project has an annualized return rate of about 7.2%. In comparison, the Yarlung Tsangpo project's return rate is projected to be between 5 and 6% annually, meaning its economic returns will likely be much lower than that of the Three Gorges. The source of funding for the Yarlung Tsangpo hydropower project is a significant concern, especially when compared to the Three Gorges Dam project. During the construction of the Three Gorges Dam, nearly 90 billion RMB was raised through electricity funds, which were collected from the public as part of a special construction fund. Another 30% came from low-interest loans provided by policy banks, and 20% was financed by the Three Gorges Corporation through capital markets. The central government contributed almost nothing. The Yarlung Tsangpo hydropower project faces significant challenges in securing funding. The Chinese government has created a new state-owned enterprise, China Yarlung Group, specifically for this project. However, the registered capital is only about 10 to 20% of the total investment, which is typical for hydropower projects. Following the Three Gorges model, policy bank loans could cover about 30% of the cost. The remaining 50% would likely need to be raised through public donations, but this approach is unlikely to succeed today. In the 1990s, people accepted electricity rate hikes due to a growing economy. However, with the current economic slowdown, rising unemployment, and mounting mortgage pressures, any increase in electricity prices would likely stir public discontent. Attracting private investment is also a challenge, as the 5% return rate may not be attractive to private companies. Relying on Tibet's local government is also not a feasible option. Tibet's annual fiscal revenue is less than 20 billion RMB, with 90% of its spending funded through central government transfers. The local government simply cannot provide the necessary financial support for such a large project. The Yarlung Tsangpo hydropower project also faces significant cost and risk factors. Geological disasters, construction delays, and environmental protection efforts could all drive costs higher, following the trend seen in the Three Gorges project. The construction of the high-voltage transmission network needed for power export will also require substantial investment. With the current economic pressures, such a large investment will likely increase the fiscal burden and limit resources for other priorities. While the Chinese government claims the Yarlung Tsangpo hydropower station will help boost Tibet's economy, the actual benefits are questionable. The project may bring short-term job opportunities, but long-term challenges such as resettling displaced people, ecological damage, and social instability could outweigh the economic benefits. The region's existing infrastructure is very limited, making it difficult to attract outside investment and develop a thriving economy. Tibet's natural resources are being heavily exploited, but local residents are unlikely to benefit from the development, a pattern seen in other large Chinese projects. In conclusion, not only is funding difficult to secure, but the economic feasibility of the project is also highly questionable. Many observers believe the project is likely to end in failure. The project has also drawn criticism from countries downstream along the Yarlung Tsangpo River. The Chinese government has a history of overlooking public safety when it comes to hydropower projects. Dam projects like the Three Gorges store water during dry periods and release it during heavy rainfall, which can worsen flooding downstream. This has caused widespread criticism of the Three Gorges project. As more hydropower stations are built, the risk of flooding and other disasters grow, causing significant hardship for local populations. China has also been accused of disregarding the interests of neighboring countries. The Yarlung Tsangpo River flows from Beibeng village in Tibet, continuing southwest for about 20 kilometers into India's Arunachal Pradesh, Bangladesh, where it is called the Brahmaputra River. It then passes through Assam and enters Bangladesh, where it is known as the Jamuna River. The river is crucial for agriculture, industry, and daily life in northeastern India and Bangladesh. The Chief Minister of Arunachal Pradesh, Pema Khandu, publicly expressed concerns on December 18th, warning that if China operates the project without transparency, it could lead to a water bomb effect and with sudden and forceful water releases that would have catastrophic impacts downstream. Khandu also cautioned that once the project is completed, the Brahmaputra River and its upstream areas could face significant drying. He noted that if China restricts the upstream water flow, it could dry up about 80% of the river's water in Arunachal Pradesh, threatening local farmers' livelihoods and the region's ecological security. According to the United Nations International Watercourse Law, the development of transboundary rivers should be carried out in a fair manner, without causing significant harm. However, the Chinese government has not adequately consulted with downstream countries, violating the spirit of international law. Furthermore, the refusal to release project data and environmental impact assessments has raised concerns about the lack of transparency, further increasing doubts in the international community. The Yarlung Tsangpo hydropower project's ability to store and divert water also gives China control over the river's flow, a capacity widely seen as weaponizing water resources. Indian think tanks have warned that China could use this control to pressure India, especially during key border disputes or diplomatic negotiations. This water war strategy not only threatens India, but also poses risks to the stability of the South Asian region. U.S. scholar Timothy Moynihan pointed out that China's dam-building activities on transboundary rivers essentially use water as a tool for geopolitical pressure. Earlier this year, India's Ministry of External Affairs formally expressed concerns, urging China to protect the rights of downstream countries and emphasizing the importance of transparency and prior consultation. Bangladesh faces an even more vulnerable position concerning the Yarlung Tsangpo project. The Bangladeshi government also sent a letter to Beijing in February requesting more detailed information about the project. Bangladesh has called for transparency and cross-border consultations, but China has yet to respond positively. The U.S. and Western countries have strongly criticized the launch of the Yarlung Tsangpo project. The U.S. Embassy in India issued a statement stating that the project could pose a threat to the ecological and geopolitical stability of South Asia. Western environmental and human rights organizations have accused China of ignoring international law and the interests of downstream countries, calling for international pressure on China's water policies. China's approach in the Yarlung Tsangpo project mirrors its actions in the development of the Langtang-Mekong River. The Mekong River, known as the Langtang in China, flows through several Southeast Asian countries, including Myanmar, Laos, Thailand, Cambodia, and Vietnam. It is one of the most important transboundary rivers in the region. Since 2000, China has built 11 large hydropower stations on the Langtang River. These dams have had severe negative effects downstream. Reduced water flow in the Mekong Delta, especially in southern Vietnam, has led to saltwater intrusion and worsened soil salinization, threatening the stability of agriculture in the region. Cambodia's Tonle Sap Lake has seen reduced water levels during the flood season, shrinking in size and losing ecological function, which has led to declines in bird populations, aquatic plants, and fisheries. Our analysis suggests that the Chinese Communist Party's construction of a hydropower station may simply be a smokescreen intended to mislead the international community. Its real objective could be to build infrastructure such as roads, railways, airports, and power stations in order to strengthen control over Tibet and establish military bases. The vast area south of the project site is currently under Indian control, although both China and India claim sovereignty over it. If a territorial conflict breaks out between the two countries in the future, the Motul County area could serve as a military supply base for the CCP. Another issue is that before China moves to occupy Arunachal Pradesh, it could encourage Pakistan to engage in armed conflict with India, potentially putting India in a difficult situation with two fronts. If China were to take control of Arunachal Pradesh, it could significantly increase its influence over Bangladesh, Myanmar, and the broader South Asian region. It could even open up a route to the Indian Ocean. Through the Yarlung Tsangpo hydropower project, China seems to be attempting to strengthen its influence in South Asia and reshape the region's geopolitical landscape to establish regional hegemony. From this strategic perspective, the Yarlung Tsangpo project serves as a tool for regional dominance, reflecting China's broader challenge to the international order and its expansionist ambitions.